At exactly 9 p.m., a woman walked into a luxury hotel she owned and was told she didn't belong there. No argument, no explanation, just 3 words from a front desk. "We're fully booked." She looked behind the counter. Empty keys. No crowd. No chaos. Then she watched something chilling. A couple walked in after her. Same question. Same night. "Welcome. We have rooms available." That's when she knew. This wasn't about availability. It was about appearance. She sat down quietly and made a call. Not to complain, but to document. For 9 long minutes, she waited. Watched the whispers. Felt the judgment. What no one realized was this. The woman they had just dismissed was the owner of the hotel. And when she finally stood up again, the lobby would never be the same. It was just after 9 p.m. when the woman stepped through the revolving doors of the hotel, the soft whoosh of glass and steel closing behind her like a curtain rising on an unseen stage. Outside, the city hummed, horns in the distance, the glow of streetlights reflecting off wet pavement, but inside the lobby, everything felt controlled, polished, and quiet. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light across marble floors. The scent of lemon polish and fresh flowers hung in the air. She blended easily into the scene. Dark jeans, a neutral sweater, comfortable shoes worn by someone who traveled often but didn't feel the need to announce it. No designer handbag, no bold jewelry, nothing that signaled wealth or power. To anyone watching, she looked like exactly what she intended to look like. A tired traveler hoping for a place to rest. What no one in the lobby realized was that this was not a coincidence. This hotel, every inch of it, belonged to her. It was one of several properties she owned across the country. Part of a hospitality group she had built over years of careful investments, late nights, and an unwavering belief in standards. But she rarely arrived with announcements or entourages. She believed the truest measure of a business wasn't how it performed during inspections, but how it behaved when no one expected scrutiny. That belief had guided her that night. She approached the front desk calmly, meeting the receptionist's eyes with a polite smile. "Good evening," she said. "I'd like a room, please." The receptionist glanced at her briefly, too briefly, and then looked down at the computer. There was a pause. A flicker of something unreadable crossed her face. "We're fully booked," the receptionist said flatly. The words landed softly, but the woman noticed everything else. The empty hooks on the key rack that didn't match the claim, the relaxed posture of staff, who clearly weren't overwhelmed, the absence of the usual apology that came with genuinely bad news. The woman nodded once, her expression unchanged. She had already learned something important. This night, she realized, was going to reveal far more than room availability. She didn't argue. Years of leadership had taught her that confrontation too early often hid the truth instead of revealing it. Instead, she asked calmly, "Are you sure?" The receptionist sighed, a subtle but telling gesture, and repeated the same line as if rehearsed. "Yes, we're fully booked tonight." Another staff member stepped closer, his arms crossing loosely over his chest. His eyes swept over her, lingering just long enough to assess, to judge. "You might want to try somewhere else," he said, his tone polite on the surface, but edged with dismissal. That was the moment the air shifted. Not because she was offended, not because she was tired, but because she recognized something deeply familiar. It was the quiet sting of being evaluated not by words or actions, but by appearance alone. She stepped aside, standing near a decorative column as if considering her options. That's when the lobby doors opened again. A white couple entered, laughing softly, rolling matching suitcases behind them. They wore casual clothes too. Nothing extravagant, nothing elite. They approached the same desk. "Do you have a room available?" the man asked. Without hesitation, the receptionist smiled. "Absolutely. We have a king suite and a deluxe double available. Which would you prefer?" Keys were retrieved. Compliments were exchanged. The process was effortless. The woman watched quietly. There it was. Clear. Undeniable. Documented not by paperwork, but by behavior. She reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. Her hands were steady as she made the call. one that bypassed layers of management and went directly to corporate leadership. Legal counsel was looped in within seconds. She didn't explain much. She didn't need to. "I'm at the property now," she said simply, "and I need you to listen." When she ended the call, she took a seat in the lobby. The clock had started ticking. The lobby felt different when she sat down, smaller somehow, heavier. In those 9 minutes, nothing dramatic happened, yet everything was exposed. The staff whispered behind the desk, their voices low and uneasy. One employee glanced toward her, then quickly looked away. Another pretended to organize papers that didn't need organizing. No one approached her. No one asked if she needed assistance. No one apologized for the inconvenience. She observed it all with a practiced calm. This, she knew, was what everyday discrimination looked like. Not loud, not obvious, just quiet neglect, delivered with professionalism thin enough to pass as policy. She thought of the countless guests who must have experienced the same thing. People who didn't own hotels, who didn't have direct lines to corporate offices, who simply walked away believing they didn't belong. At exactly 9 minutes, she stood. Her posture changed as she approached the desk again. Not aggressive, not theatrical, but grounded. Certain. "I'd like to introduce myself," she said. Her voice was calm, steady, and unmistakably authoritative. She paused deliberately. "My name is..." Then she finished the sentence. "I own this hotel." The reaction was instant. Faces drained of color. A nervous laugh escaped someone's throat, too loud, too forced. Surely this was a joke. Surely no one who owned a place like this would walk and dress like that. Without a word, she opened her purse. Ownership documents, corporate credentials, government-issued identification. Each item landed softly on the counter. The lobby fell silent. No one spoke at first. The staff stood frozen, eyes darting between the documents and the woman, who now seemed impossibly larger than before. She broke the silence with a single question. "Why was I told there were no rooms?" No answer came. She glanced upward, pointing gently toward the security camera mounted above the desk. "This is recording, correct?" A hesitant nod. She explained calmly, without anger, without raised voices, that denying service based on appearance or race was not just unethical, but illegal. That she had just witnessed 2 identical requests handled in 2 very different ways. That intent didn't matter nearly as much as impact. Then she did something no one expected. She thanked them for showing me exactly what happens here when you think no one is watching. One by one, she informed each staff member on duty that their employment was terminated, effective immediately. There were no insults, no humiliation, just consequences. Security was called, not to remove guests, but to escort former employees out. The lobby returned to silence. By sunrise, new management stood behind the front desk. Emergency meetings were held. Anti-bias training was scheduled across the company. Policies were rewritten, reinforced, and monitored with zero tolerance for exception. The incident became a case study, not a scandal, but a lesson. The woman refused interviews. She didn't want headlines. She wanted change. Later, she explained her decision simply. "I didn't fire them because they denied me a room. I fired them because of how many others they must have denied before me." The story spread quietly at first, then widely. A reminder that professionalism isn't about appearance. That power doesn't always announce itself. And that respect should never be conditional. Because sometimes, justice doesn't arrive loudly. It walks through a revolving door, waits 9 minutes, and changes everything. Every staff member on duty was terminated that night, not because of one lie, but because of a pattern of silent discrimination, of decisions made when no one was watching. This story isn't about revenge. It's about accountability, because respect should be given before status is revealed. If stories like this matter to you, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. You never know who's standing in front of you.